Hey guys, Louis here, coming back to you from the back garden here in Acorn Hill. I'm on the elevated garden along the west side. We're looking at our overgrown rosemary bush over here. I have a project that's perfect for Christmas where we will be using. It is a good time for me to snip off and prune and trim this big rosemary bush that we have. I'm thinking of having us go over a few of our reliable perennials here in the garden. One is obviously this big rosemary bush. This is about 8 feet from here all the way out to that side, over to the opposite side near the arborvitae. Let's go over to the other side and I'll show you the other perennials that we have. Coming back to you from the potting table here in the backyard. I am trimming and gathering up rosemary branches. This big rosemary bush that I have, it's about 8 feet wide from here all the way out to that side, that I got about 3 to 4 years ago, that I planted on right behind the retaining wall of our garden. We are facing the west garden again, and there's the pergola, the apple espalier that we have, where I planted recently a lot of bulbs on that bottom garden bed. I finally also was able to uproot. You remember it from the previous video, that arborvitae right there was planted. I made an error in planting it behind one of the pergolas before I even built the pergola, and so it was important that I take it out so we can have it grow and get thicker. Getting back to what I was trying to tell you today, this rosemary bush needed trimming and pruning as well. And since it's Christmas, I figured Kat wants a live wreath on our front door. We'll be making a unique wreath made out of rosemary branches, rosemary foliage. So I am going to be pruning and trimming a few branches. I've already trimmed off quite a few branches. These branches right here that you see, for when we build the actual structure of the wreath. Alright, so after trimming off and pruning all the branches, the necessary ones that I need to take out from the rosemary, I have walked over to the front yard, and I wanted to show you this big growth that we have up here. It's a form of evergreen. I forgot what it's called, but it's kind of related to boxwood. And what it does is it has overgrown on top. It's very top heavy at the moment, with a lot of these branches that really need to be trimmed off. And I figured if we take this out and clean out this part of the front yard with this bush and evergreen, then we'll be able to have quite a lot that we could use for the wreath as well. So I'm gonna put down the camera and show you what I will do in cleaning all this mess up, this extra growth right on top of this hedge. Pardon the lighting, but yeah, that's what it looks like. So plan is to trim that from there and really clean off the top, level this off this way, and hopefully we can get a good amount of foliage and greenery for the project that we have today. Alright, so here we are so far. This is the trimming from the evergreen along the front of our house, which I really still don't know what it's called. If any of you out there who's watching this know what this is called, just go on ahead and put it on the comment section. It has some berries, like look at that black berry that it has. Isn't that neat? It had a good growing season, so it gave out a lot of these big branches. Been there for more than a decade since we first planted it. I also have back here remnants or trimmings, prunings of the rosemary coming from this bush. Anyhow, and so with this amount that we have, we will be able to accomplish and put out a good form of foliage for the wreath that we will have. So let me put the camera down again and I'll show you what I do in making this wreath. Before we start, wanted to give you an idea what I have for my instruments and implements, right tools for the right job. I have my two favorite pruners, a wire cutter and a wire paddle that we will use so we can tie that down onto the wreath base. We're not using a traditional oval or circle base for a wreath this year, and we got this wreath base, wreath form that is square, and I think it would be a modern take to the usual type of wreath that we are used to. I think it'll look good. I think that we can get a lot of interest and texture for what we have. It'll be an evergreen wreath, and so we'll have fun, all of us, making this. First thing we need to do when it comes to wreath building and wreath making is it's really fairly simple. You need to have your wreath frame, and you want to make sure that the foliage that you use, you could either use the same foliage or you can combine foliages for more texture. And for this morning, what I'm gonna do is combine the rosemary and this boxwood type greenery. You need to put them together to form little bunches. And so when I mean bunches, all you gotta do is cut. All you have to do is cut about, I would say, 10-inch pieces of greenery. For me, I'm doing them randomly. That way you can really bunch them up and use the longer ones. The longer branches go in the back, and then you just put them, whether they are facing this way or that way, it doesn't matter at this point. In fact, I like the back portion of this greenery as well. And so the taller ones go in the back, the shorter ones, the shortest, go to the front. And that would be the bunch that you want to make. Wrap that up with the wire. And what this will do, typically I go the other way so that can be cradled and be wrapped right along that channel and be wrapped around in sequence all the way around. The more you put greenery, the more it will look thicker, a lot fuller, just like that. Now all this needs now is a couple of sprigs of the rosemary. So the rosemary branches that I got is a grouping of quite a lot of secondary branches, and this is what they sell. These branches are what they sell in package in the supermarkets for us to use. So you grab a handful of these sprigs, and again, the taller the sprig, the more you can put them in the back. I have the option at the moment of either combining them this way, and I think that's what's going to give it more texture. I'm changing my mind here a little bit. Instead of putting the rosemary on the front, we'll put that in the back, just like that. Or maybe not. I'm still changing my mind here and switching plans. If we put them just randomly together, I think this is better because you can really mix them up and put the tallest ones out in the back and intersperse that with this branch, and that's looking good. And there's another branch as well. Shorten that one. I think that's better. So what we'll do here is get a piece of wire. There really is nothing to it. All you got to do, and I like the paddle because you could use that to pull and tug. And you turn this several ways, several times, and then you just tug that, do it again. And from there, just cut it up. You use your, there we go, wire cutter, and tie it around just like that. And that fan shape will be what's gonna go on top. I have to make several of these, so give me a minute. We can start with maybe a dozen little bunches like this, and start putting them on the base. So here we are. Several of these bunches. These are the longer bunches and shorter bunches. Where are they? Here we go. So the longer ones are probably 10 inches to sometimes 11 or 12 inches long, and that is to cover the side part. Just trim this off. The side part of the wreath is going to be slightly more challenging because we have sharp corners for the square wreath form as compared to if we were doing it on a round form. What we'll do is we'll designate the short ones to go along the edge and the long ones to go along the front, and that will just make it encompass the length of each side of the square a whole lot better, and then hopefully the turns at the corners are not going to be too wonky and uneasy when we're doing this. So what I'm going to do is secure the corner, the smaller bunch at the corner. Now I'm left-handed, and you can secure this any way you choose. We're going to do it that way. So we'll have a little bit of that greenery going over the corner of the wreath form. So what I'm going to do is just wrap this several times and really wrap it tightly so it gets secure on the base. Alright? Now we're not going to cut, whereas before when we're doing the bunches we cut the wire. We're not going to do that in this case. We're just going to follow it up. We're going to follow it up with the next bunch and move the wire over and start wrapping this nicely and tautly along the wreath base. Put another one. This will be the second longer bunch right over there, and then wrap this again and tug that and pull that tightly. There we go. Now you see that the bottom of this second longer bunch, the cut side is over here. What we'll do is we're gonna put this, the smaller one that we did earlier, and wrap it this way. Kind of spread it around. What you want to do is not have that sharp edge right over here. So the bottom of the smaller bunch, it's going to give it, there we go, and that will give that part that we want for it. And so we're just going to wrap this tightly again and pull that tightly so it gets secure. Now later, this is just the first layer. We may have to put another layer to keep this bushier as we go along. So we're going to go to the bottom part again. Just swing the wreath base around and put it over here. Spread that apart a little bit, and we wrap this around the wreath frame a couple of times, and then tug that, and we go get another thicker branch. Right. We wrap it over. Now we get another smaller branch and put that right over here. We're going to rotate the wreath and get ourselves a longer one. Now, to end this, again, this is still just the first layer. Make sure we designate the bottom part of this wreath. So instead of placing it this way, I'm going to face this the opposite way so we can have both branch ends kind of meeting here in the middle, and then we'll put something on top just to make it a lot bushier, I guess. That'd be how that will look like. And we just keep on rotating this. You may want to lift this up a little bit and squeeze it in just to get some of those branches to blend together. There you go. So now this we can wrap around. Continue to wrap and continue to tug. There we go. There. So far so good. Now what we have here is just these sharp corners created by the foliage. So what I'm going to do is further tuck them in and adjust all these branches so we can get them to thicken up a little bit. You can also fan out the previous ones that we've already put in place, and that should give that a little bit more of a finished corner, finished edge to it. We have green wire, and that green wire will blend. The green wire will allow this to disappear when we bring this around and in. So that'll be that. You tuck that, and then you can just cut this excess wire. That should be the end of that wrapping. Now I still have a lot more greenery to use. So as you can see, we have a lot of these stray branches, especially over here. So what I'll do is I'll cut them up so we can trim them and get the corner to look a lot softer than how it is at the moment. Like this excess corner right here is very pointy, so all you gotta do, what I do is I would just cut them. We want to make sure that it looks presentable along the corners. And see how much excess we have over here. Now, if I were to cut this tip could be tucked in. We're not hanging this, we're just placing this right up against we have a table along the front of the house, and we'll show you, give you a shot of what it will look like. It'll be a minimalist table and give that festive look to that corner. I think I have another corner here, right over here, that I need to trim. First time that I've done this. Not too bad. There you go. Make that side fuller. There. Again, that's going to be the base. We place it on the wall this way. Almost all done. Wipe the table clean and voila. There it is. See that? Not too bad. Alright. Thanks again, guys, for joining me and indulging me in making another project here in Acorn Hill. A square wreath with materials available from foliage and greenery in the backyard. If you haven't just stumbled on the channel, or if you haven't already, do click on that subscribe button, click on that like button, and share our videos. We have more content coming up. This is Louie, and we'll see you back here on Acorn Hill. Bye-bye for now.